going. Yep. Good morning, good day, and good evening. I'm, as always, your host, Brody Robertson, and today we have the founder of something which I wasn't aware of until very recently, but they seem to have a very, very dedicated community where the second I talk about some useful resource that exists for Linux, the Horde comes out to tell me about it. So we have the founder of all things Linux here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for having me. It's an honor. And yeah, the Horde did speak. I was like, hopefully they don't think we're bots or something like that.
Like, yeah, I don't remember the context. Oh, no, I was doing a video of things that would be useful for a new Linux user.
Yep.
And, people are going to mention the things they always mention. Like, hey, check out the Arch Wiki. Hey, check this out. Hey, check that out. And it's just,
RCFM.
sorry? Oh, yeah, RTFM. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and then I got a bunch of people all saying, hey, look at this all things Linux thing. I was like, okay, that sounds like the name of a YouTube channel or something, because, there's a bunch of Linux channels where it's like, something
Mm.
Linux. Like, okay, what is this thing? I check it out, there's this nice website, and go to the Discord, and all of a sudden, everyone's like, hey Brody, hey Brody, hey Brody, hey Brody. It's like, I just came here to check things out. I should have joined with my ult because it gave me
Yeah,
an initial, very skewed experience.
we were waiting for you.
I can see that. So, for anyone who might be completely unaware of what all things Linux is, how about just give a brief overview and then we can sort of get into more from there?
Yeah, so at first it started off as a simple community through Discord.
Hmm.
And then, I always knew that we would do something special, something big. Didn't know exactly how at the beginning. Through the activity and I just like the insane activity at that and the growth rate, eventually like we just had all these bright minds and stuff, and like, why don't we put them all together and do something bigger. I kind of have some experience in the past of managing things, creating things, and so we decided that, I mean, one, we wanted to help people through things like education and support. Two, we wanted to build things to kind of glue that all together. So like different, self-hosted services and different tools and things like that. And then, uh, as you mentioned in the video as well, the wiki kind of component. And so the team's grown pretty big since then, about to break 10K members on Discord. And then I believe so. We started in November 2023, a
Okay.
year after we officially became a 501c3 nonprofit.
Hmm.
And that was a pretty big deal, for just a Discord server, right?
Hmm.
People just thought it was another server, another community. But I think going in that direction is going to open up a lot of different, avenues for like funding and things like that to be able to do actually really cool projects.
Hmm. So, you said it started as a Discord server. How did you initially start getting people to join? Were you posting in various places? Did people just magically find it? And then what was that
So,
initial period like?
so this is an interesting question.
Okay.
So, how Discord can be sometimes. It's the Linux community. It has a little bit of spice and drama here and there.
Uh-huh.
And with this community, I'll save the real tea for another time. But more or less, I was a part of a community for quite a while. It was a Linux community.
Mhm.
And I made a lot of friends. I enjoy myself there. It's how I got involved in the space. But I wasn't really happy with how things were being ran
Mhm.
in terms of just management and like culture, and just honestly, I felt like it could be so much more than it was, and it wasn't going that way. If anything, it was becoming worse and worse.
Mhm.
And so I made a kind of a call out post, if you will, and it
I
was just
see.
like, here's everything wrong with this server,
Hmm.
and provided evidence, and et cetera, et cetera. And I was just like, like, let's do something about it. It didn't turn out well. Uh,
Uh-huh.
I, yeah, so then I got banned. I got banned from that community.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay.
I got banned for that community, and then I created a server. I was like, okay, fine, like,
I'll
so be
start my
it.
own server with
Uh,
blackjack and hookers.
and yeah, exactly. And so then I invited, I don't know, probably the first day I think we had like 100 plus people, just like people that I personally knew, just called on.
Mhm.
Um, and then within, I don't know, like how long, some numbers, some few weeks, the message count and everything else, like the activity was just so strong, and it
Mhm.
continued and continued and continued, and like it was to the point where, I mean, at first we did have rules and whatnot. I remember one of the issues that I had with that community, the
Mhm.
one that we came from, was how vague and kind of small the rules were, and
Mhm.
so like moderation, things like that could kind of live in the gray and whatnot. And
Mhm.
so we kind of all came together, went into like a GitHub or Google Doc or something like that, and just kind of collaborated on like a code of conduct. We drafted out like the initial code of conduct, and that was sort of set in stone the direction, and sort of values and principles that we wanted to go to.
Mhm.
I will admit, kind of the earlier days was more definitely a little friend groupy, but the activity was there, and to the point where it was becoming obvious of like, okay, we have something.
Right.
And then when it all changed was when we got GG/Linux. And this was
Hmm.
all pure, like, the fact that the way that I got it is a crazy story in itself. But once we got that, that was pretty much, we decided right then and there, okay, look, if we have the Linux handle, um, we have to be the best Discord Linux server, there, because like we're representing Linux, like we
Mhm.
have to set in stone that, oh, the quality, and what people expect, especially if it's their first time, being introduced to Linux and things like that. We need to set a standard. And so that obviously we haven't really done any like marketing or advertising,
Mhm.
because everything is pretty much come through that, the handle, or through just like word of mouth,
Right.
friends inviting friends and things like that.
Mhm. For anyone who may not be a Discord user, because I know the FOSS audience, some of them live on IRC and mailing lists
Yeah.
and haven't seen
We have
Discord
an
ever.
IRC bridge. We have an IRC bridge, by the way.
I do want to get into the moderation of that. I was not aware you had that because I know moderating across two things can be a bit weird. But for anyone who might be unaware of what the GG/Linux thing is, like, can you explain that to them?
Yeah, yeah. It's just every server has invitation links, and when you have, like, I don't know, Boost, I guess Nitro, it's like their monetization, whatever, premium accounts. People can boost and support a server, and then at 14 boost, you get access to have a custom URL, and typically, some of the more common words and popular words are going to be hard to grab,
Sure.
because people are
Like they
just,
are with URL, like normal URLs. Like you want to buy like
yeah,
any
just
5 letter
yeah,
domain. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Same thing with domains, different social media handles, blah blah blah. And so if you go to discord.gg/ubuntu, or Debian, or whatever, you're going to find probably their servers. Linux, though, had not didn't have a community for it.
Right.
And so one day I randomly typed it in, and I went to it, and it was just a blank thing. It was just like, it was a guy in there who's just like, DM if interested. It was crazy is
Oh.
that that's crazy is that he got this handle like a week after we started the server. So
Uh
like,
huh.
I remember I was in Virginia, I think, for Thanksgiving or something, and I saw this, and like I just raced, like I just DM'd him. I was like, dude, da, 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 like whatever you need. And it was kind of sketchy because he wanted Cash App or like
Uh-huh.
or like Bitcoin or like
Mm,
something PayPal friends and family. And I was like, oh gosh, like I'm about to get scammed.
mm-hmm.
So he wanted he asked how much for it. Like I don't know what to say. Like like what would you say? Like who knows? Like he's gonna ask something. He's gonna try and rob me basically for
Yeah.
something ridiculous. I don't think he realized like what he had. Besides just like $100, because like I wanted it. Like it like I was like like it meant a lot sentimentally to me.
This
And I was
may
like, dude,
be the
I was like, if I
dumbest.
get scammed, yeah, if I get scammed, it's $100, okay, like whatever. And so I sent him $100 Bitcoin,
Uh-huh.
and and um and he was like all good and everything, and then he transferred it to me
Hmm.
pretty much immediately with a tool that he had,
This might be
and
the
so
dumbest domain squatter I have ever seen. Like you're gonna let that go for like you get Linux and you let it go for $100.
yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Sucks to suck, I
And some
guess.
people, what's weird is that in the early days, some people kind of felt weird that I bought it. Like
Mm,
they had some weird energy. Like I don't
mm,
know
mm.
why, but I was like, I'd rather buy it and like protect it than someone else getting it and use it
Right,
for
right.
like nefarious reasons or something like that.
Right, like
But
use it as like a malware Discord. Like people
who
go to it
who knows
thinking
what?
it's some like semi-official
Yeah.
thing.
I was like, yeah, like of course I'm gonna buy it. $100, like yeah, it was the best $100 I ever spent. Like
Mhm. I
so,
don't
yeah.
I don't know if that's against I assume it's against Discord's TOS to be selling GG links.
I don't know if it's maybe selling, but I don't know about buying though.
Probably not buying.
Discord, please. I'm innocent. If you're watching this,
No, that is kind of crazy though that someone had grabbed it and then let it go for that, but not only
a week after we
but
started as well.
not only let it go for that, that someone else hadn't gone to him already.
Yeah, true, true, true.
Like
I mean,
how
it was a
long?
week after, so.
Oh, okay. Well, even so, like how like you said this was 2023, yeah?
Yeah. But
Discord
well, see,
had the
someone did supposedly had it beforehand.
okay.
Someone did, and I heard rumors that it was used for some pretty bad things.
I see. I see.
Yeah, yeah.
So Discord probably
So,
stepped in and shut it down, and then this guy
uh,
scooped it up when it was available. That would be the best guess.
yep, yep. And so since then, that link, I think the last time I looked, because it shows you how many people have clicked it, I think like over 15,000 maybe. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is that is kind of crazy that you've got like it would be one thing if you just were like, "Oh, let's make it the all things Linux or ATL, what anything like that." But the
Mm.
fact that you actually have Linux, like how does it feel to basically be the Linux representation on Discord? Cuz that's effectively the position
Feels,
you're in.
yeah, no, it feels great. I think that we've done everything in our power to meet that like face,
Mhm,
to wear that badge. We pretty much have 24/7 moderation
mhm,
all across the world, all time zones covered. I think our team right now is maybe like 25 people,
mhm,
all volunteers. Since the very beginning, our code of conduct incredibly thorough. It's grown now. We even have moderation handbooks. All moderators are personally onboarded. They're all trained in different ways. We have tons of helpful users. Our support forums are active. One thing I'm proud to say is that despite our numbers, like we're around maybe, I think we're at 99 something hundred right now, and that's within, yeah, since November 11th, 2023.
mhm.
So pretty quick growth, but since at least maybe I don't know, like 5 6K range, we were, if you and I did the numbers multiple times because we have a thing that tracks like all the messages and stuff like that. Or actually, no, if you just go, if you go to search the search box in Discord and you like pick a random day, you say like during this day, go to any other place and look. Like we're averaging anywhere from 10 to 20,000 messages a day. And like, if you go to other communities, I'm not going to say names, other communities with, 20, 30,000 people, it's like crickets, like,
Right.
2,000, 3,000 a day, 4,000 a day. Even some added up don't even get close to what we're doing it. And so like that just shows to me like people like being here. People enjoy talking here. People feel a sense of camaraderie here. Like, and I think culture is everything. Like our moderation style as well is like our moderators and staff aren't moderators. They're members that perform the role of moderator, but at the end of the day they're still members. They still get along with everyone. They still, we're all equal. And so I think when you kind of create that level of intimacy, it pays off. People
Right.
will have a much more like bond, a stronger bond.
So you mentioned like values a couple of times. What
Hmm.
sort of values did you want this community to represent?
Yeah, so I think in on our website you can actually find in the about page, but to share a few specifically, obviously being just all inclusive, to everyone. I would say being transparent. We're very transparent about things, whether it be moderation, logs, the open source nature, having our code of conduct on GitHub. If you see something that's wrong or something that's vague, you can make a pull request, like, and we're going to consider it. If someone has done something in terms of staff, like even in our mod chats and things like that, if a moderator makes a mistake, we're going to call each other out on that and grow from that. So, transparency is important, and especially as a nonprofit now that we take, donations, and we've been having plenty of donations and stuff that has been quite inspiring to see. Um, but I would say a big thing to me is removing the barrier to entry and also the stereotypes around Linux. I
Right.
think is really important. Like anyone can use Linux. Um, Not everyone fits the stereotype that we have, or that the Linux community has created. Even if it's joking at the end of it's still, I think, stereotypes long term aren't healthy.
Sure.
um I would say removing the quote unquote toxicity or elitism that many communities often have. And I even saw it on the video when you mentioned about the resources. There were several comments that were like, oh, distro specific communities are so elitist and this and that. And so I think being a general server that kind of empowers people to enjoy or use whatever they want, like we're very like firm on this. And some people have been like, oh, this isn't the server for me. But like if you want to use Ubuntu, great, by all means, all power to you. But like we're not going to let or tolerate someone just like immediately, wait, can I curse on here?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, totally fine.
Immediately shitting on you for using Ubuntu. Like, that's just not cool. Like, imagine you are a newcomer and you're just getting involved. Like we all start somewhere, we all start as a noob, whatever. And so just being as welcoming and friendly as we can. And at the end of the day, like we're all here for a reason, and that's Linux. The technical nature of it, the joy and love that we have for it. And so removing all politics aside, all religion, race, sex, gender, whatever, like all of that is irrelevant. We're here for Linux.
Right.
That's GG/Linux. That's all that matters.
On the topic of distro specific communities being elitist, I don't. it's not exactly what I'm saying. I do think the Arch community very much so. Like they expect if you're coming into the Arch forums, they do expect you to have read the documentation, have read the wiki,
Yeah.
have like some basic understanding. I can't speak on Ubuntu and Fedora. I'm not part of those.
Yeah, yeah.
What I will say though is they are a lot more topic specific where if you're in there, you're kind of expected to be talking about something Ubuntu related or Fedora related.
Yeah, yeah.
If you go there with an Arch problem, like they're going to send you
Yeah,
away
of
to
course.
somewhere else. Like they are there to talk Fedora. They're not necessarily there to talk Linux in general. They might have a general section, but that's not like the main focus of what they're doing. Like that's I think that's the main point I was trying to get at the video. I would need to go back and re-listen to what I said, but I feel like that's probably what I was saying.
Well, I don't think you mentioned anything about communities, really. I think some people were just because of the mention of ATL and communities in
Sure,
general,
sure.
they started going off about like how some communities can be
Oh yeah,
toxic and things like
I'm sure the
that.
comments were saying some things. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like.
Yeah. So,
Oh, go on.
I was just going to say, yeah. So, like, anti-elitism, is super important to us.
Right, right, right. No, I think that is a good thing. There is a lot of people who feel like anytime I talk about like getting people to shift over to Linux, like when I did that video on the end of 10 and like any other videos I've done on the Windows 10 EOL, I always talk about like okay, like if you're in a position where someone who's getting sick of Windows, who they've maybe considered the Linux thing but aren't really sure about it, like you're in a position that you can actually help them and make that transition a lot easier. Like don't go in like you've probably seen Reddit posts where it's like, oh, I installed I installed Linux on my grandma's computer and
Yeah. Yeah.
like don't do that. Like
Yeah.
if they're interested and they want to try something out. Now one exception is if they're still using a Windows XP system. Please, for the love of God, get them off of that. No matter what, like whatever you have to do,
Yeah.
don't let them keep using XP or a Vista system. Get them to something somewhat more modern, even if that's just like a more modern Windows. But I did see people saying, well, oh, the Linux community, it's elitist. You'll be told to like RTFM, like, oh,
Yeah.
it's all these Linux people constantly want you to move over to Linux. It's just like that is not what I was saying. Like the whole point I was saying is if there are people that who are open to making this change, make the change. But there's so many people out there who I think do a bad job at sort of representing Linux that the immediate idea of even just helping someone move to Linux sort of brings up that idea of like evangelizing the system and trying
Drinking the
to
Kool-Aid.
yeah. Like that, yeah, I get it, and I think it's a good thing to try and make something feel a bit more approachable. If someone is kind of interested in Linux and has some questions about it, there is actually somewhere they can go where people at least try to help them out.
Yeah, I mean, we have plenty of Windows users in there. Like, there's Windows users in there that are openly like, just like creating like I don't know, like niche Windows 95 rices for the hell of it. Right? Like we love that. Like, there's like BSD nerds in there. There's people that are using Plan 9. There's people that are using Nix OS. Obviously, still Linux, but like there's people that are using uh I don't know, like who knows what, like some of the
Sure,
most
sure.
obscure things like you could think of. And I mean, I love it. Like, I think as long as it's in that kind of hacker space type, um, world, I think it's nice.
Earlier you mentioned also having an IRC bridge. So is that side that active, and how do you go about handling the moderation across I guess they're effectively two distinct communities just connected via a bridge.
Well, yeah. So I'll be honest, the IRC has been a little lackluster. Most of it is for kind of just like more just people wanting to get away from Discord for a
Sure.
bit. Maybe they're on a different device, or I don't know, maybe they're on their like pure TTY setup or something.
Mhm.
Like, and so we have, and I can get into a little this more later, but
Mhm.
we kind of have like these, I guess, flagship type uh, projects. And so ATL, short, all things Linux.
Mhm.
We have quite a few different domains, and
Right.
one of those is atl.chat. And
Mhm.
so there's a kind of a much bigger project in plan right now, and that's kind of providing people like their own ATL account, so
Mhm.
be it. And so from that, they'll be able to create um, accounts in the IRC, XMPP,
Mhm.
possibly Matrix. What else is
I see a
there?
mention of Mastodon down the bottom here.
Yeah, Mastodon, some different things, basically all sorts of different networks, and then those will all bridge back. We use some custom stuff, also something called Matter Bridge,
Mhm.
which is like a bridging protocol. It's in Go. Our IRC platform is called uses Ergo, which is kind of like an IRCD implementation,
Mhm.
and then we've actually modified it a little bit to handle. So one thing about our server, and some people don't like it at first, but we have to, is we have a slow mode in our general chat
Mhm.
typically, because without it, like, it's just unbearable. Like
Right. Right.
some days, like especially in the heat of the moment, we sometimes have to put it up to 7, 10 seconds even, because it's still just chat's just flying. And um and so we modified the IRC service to have its own slow mode and auto mod system
Mhm.
to filter out different words and things like that.
Right. Right.
And then basically any of our Discord staff can have staff accounts there. They're all trained to, I think right now you have to make a ticket to get an IRC account, but they all are trained to set them up, and then anyone that wants to use it can use it, and
Mhm.
then yeah, it just bridges through. But once the account sort of system, think of it as almost like a LADP, kind of like identity provider, I guess. And so
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
people will
Mhm.
be able to set their own like profile pictures and stuff. And so the bridge, basically, it's through webhooks. The bridge webhook will have their name and their profile picture and stuff like that. Now, the only
Okay.
issue though is like when bridging IRC to Discord, there's some stuff it's just not going to be as perfect as you want.
Mhm.
Obviously, like replies, so like in Discord, you can reply to someone and it's gonna be like linked.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah. Yeah.
visibly see the link, whereas in IRC, you're gonna typically refer to someone by like name colon and then just
Mhm.
figure it out. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that, and then also if someone drops in like a code block of like 15 lines, it's gonna go dun, 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 dun. And so yeah, that's a little annoying.
Mhm. Mhm. So you've
But
got a lot of tooling alongside this to actually make it like manageable.
yeah, still a
Would
lot more to go. But
Mhm.
IRC is not fun. I'll just say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to comment more on that?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's a very
Simple? Old?
archaic, it's a very
Yeah.
archaic system. I spent a lot of time going, evaluating options, Unreal, IRC, IRCD, Ergo. There's so many things within that, things like Nixserve and Chanserve and da da da, and you spam management, IP management, just all of that stuff.
Mhm.
It gets a lot.
Right.
And if you think that's hard, though, wait till you get into XMPP.
Oh, I've
Yeah,
I know a bit about Matrix, but XMPP I've not at all touched.
yeah, XMPP is a beast. It's a lot.
Uh-huh. What can you
Just
tell me about
like
XMPP?
like it follows a ton of different standards, like PEP standards, basically.
Mhm.
And so there's all these different modular type aspects to it and features that
Mhm.
people implemented, whether it be like the ability to have read receipts or the ability to have push notifications, the ability to have, all these little pieces of what creates a typical chatting interface. So you
Mhm.
take that, then you add in the entire basically privacy, encryption aspect of client to server, server to server, client to client, all of that,
Mhm.
and then the aspect of like just, I mean, you should see my DNS list for XMPP. It's like freaking 20 records
Mhm.
of just stuff of opening up all these different ports and TLS records and this and that. And so that, and then depending on what XMPP platform you're using,
Mhm.
um, one that I particularly like, Prosody, it uses Lua, and I think is it PHP based or no? I think it's just Lua based.
Mhm.
That as well. There's a ton to it. There's just like all these different configurations and da 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 da. And it's just a lot. It's, I mean, I spent probably a week reading documentation, like just like every day, just reading documentation until I can wrap my head around it.
Mhm. 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 Okay, so I guess going from having this Discord server here, like that could have just been the one thing you did. It's like, okay, we're gonna make a good Discord community. But you also said there's a non-profit attached to it as well, and you're also building
Yeah,
all of these tools. So why
yeah,
did you decide to expand out of just being a Discord server?
because that's boring.
Fair.
Because that's boring. There's so many Discord servers. Like,
Mhm.
why not do more? No. I mean, if we're gonna be GG/Linux, right?
Yep.
Like we're gonna in our name, even the name, all things Linux, it's a pretty big name, okay?
Mhm.
So like I said, I've had experience, personally. I've been an entrepreneur my entire life, doing different businesses. I actually used to work in the music business,
Mhm.
throwing events and things like that. And then I got into like software and like digital marketing and things like that. And so I just knew inside like, oh, I could probably do something. Like we can
Mhm.
do something cool. Uh that I think what it started off. Okay, so the very first project that we had was
Mhm.
an open source Discord bot. That's called Tux.
Okay.
And Tux is now over 20,000 lines long of Python. It's Dockerized. It's like the most extreme like linting system. CI images. There's it has Nix flakes. Everything like we're doing some really cool stuff. Like 2,000 plus commits on it. I think like 30 plus contributors. We're about to have our first official release. There's a roadmap of it as well. I think over 100, maybe 110 stars or something like that. And so our goal with that was kind of be like the all-in-one Discord bot and
Mhm.
to provide an alternative to something like, Dino or,
Right.
Me6 and those other kind of like all-in-one bots, but add in so much more. And so, for example, it being a Linux focused bot, you could run, for example, we have like a TLDR command, right? Like you could
Right.
literally
Right.
just
Right.
like TLDR, whatever. Actually, one of the maintainers, I believe, through the last video that you posted, found us through your video, joined in, and I've been communicating with him, and we've been talking and everything connected over that. And he's been helping me with some things like that. And
Mhm.
so, that was cool. Different things, code compiling. I've been working on a integration with repo.
Re.
How do you how do
Let me just
repology
let me at the website right now.
repology? I never know how to
Re
say this.
I would say Repology, but I
Repology?
yeah, that sounds right
Yeah.
to me.
Repology. So integrations with Repology, man pages, all these different things, like, different package manager repos,
Mhm. Mhm.
and just, creating that. And then basically, I mean, when you're in control of it, the code base at least, you have so
Mhm.
much flexibility to do things. And so that we created that bot, or at least the idea of it, I think like the second week of the server opening.
Mhm.
So that was that. And then maybe, I don't know, like 6 months in, I think we had the idea of the wiki, or no, maybe the wiki or maybe the tools.
Mhm.
So I've been basically like, people think I have an addiction. Don't listen to them, but
No, definitely not.
I have a I've been acquiring a lot of domains, okay,
Uh-huh.
because they'll definitely come in handy. So atl.tools, you
Mhm.
can visit it. You can kind of get the vision. Eventually, that's going to be a lot of different self-hosted services and things like that.
Mhm.
atl.wiki, obviously, atl.chat, as I mentioned, atl. What else do we have? Oh, I just got atl.sh. That one's clean. And then no, so the big picture though, atl.dev, and I'm not
Mhm.
sure. I could probably share my screen in a little bit about what this exactly is,
Okay.
but atl.dev is really where it ties together the nonprofit and my kind of vision behind it. Are you familiar with Pubnix or Tillyverse?
It's ringing a bell, but I can't put my finger on it. Uh,
Pubnix, it's like a probably best if you look it up.
uh, Pu- do
Pretty
you,
old, pretty old.
Pubnix is a boutique internet service provider with personalized service that offers you an alternative to
No,
big
that's not
telco.
it.
No,
Nope.
well,
No,
I
no,
don't know what you're
no.
talking about. Then that was the first
Okay,
that came
so
up.
a Pubnix is think of it as like a public sort of hacker space where people can get involved. So typically
Mhm.
back then it was through universities, just small little groups where they would host server space, and people would
Oh
be
wait,
able
wait, is
to
this
get.
public access Unix systems?
Yeah, so people would
Okay.
be able to SSH into them and monkey around and test things and learn about Linux. They would have, resources, HTTP space, etc.
Mhm.
And they created kind of micro communities around that, BBS, IRC days.
Uh-huh.
And that grew and grew, and the spirit of that eventually grew into the concept of like tilde verses. And
Okay.
if you actually look up tilde, like ti, whatever, tilde dot club, I think you'll get
Uh,
it. It's super super 90s.
dot club. I see a. Oh wait, Tilly dot. Is this it? Uh, is the website some like is it like orange tech or orange like
Tilde
accents to
club.
everything,
Yeah, it's like
black
super hacky. It's
background?
like welcome to Tilde
Yeah.
Club.
Okay.
Looks like
Okay.
a
Yep. Cool.
yeah. Okay, so if you look at, for example, if you scroll down, you'll see a bunch of usernames.
Hmm.
The tilde is because if you click it, instead of using subdomains, if you click one of them, you can see it's tilde username. They're just
Right.
using HTTP space and like var www. But these people, so they've kind of created these communities,
Mm.
and they have typically tons of self-hosted resources. So, like for example, this one is not a good example. If you go to go to let's see, um,
That screen is really bright on
til-
your face.
tilde, try to wait, burn.cc. Go to vern.cc, ver.cc.
Fern.cc. Okay.
And scroll down. You can see, look how many things they host.
Uh.
They provide mirrors, services,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
everything's Tor. They have Gemini space. Different like uh Pastebin
Mhm.
services,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
everything you can imagine, pretty much. Like it just keeps going and going and going. And like I just love the idea of it. Like it was so cool to me whenever I first learned about this sort of ecosystem. And there's so many of these, and they all sort of interconnect in this giant web.
Mhm.
And yeah, I thought it was so cool. And so I was like, okay, well, what if we take on kind of that approach, but we also take on stuff like, so we already host mail, right? We
Mhm.
provide self-hosted mail. But what about like Netlify, kind of Vercel, Cloudflare pages, etc., providing server space storage? And so I was like, okay, who's gonna pay for this, right?
Right.
How do we afford all this? Well, we're a nonprofit. That means we can apply for grants and sponsorships and things like that. And so, okay, who's gonna give us money? Well, why not we provide this space and resources to people that are in need, whether
Mm.
it be students, smaller FOSS developers of smaller projects and stuff like that, different maintainers, different, kind of younger junior independent developers,
Mhm.
different schools, so be it, et cetera. And,
Mhm.
and so, you know, big companies, they're like, oh yes, this looks good for us. Here, take our money.
Right, right, right.
And because you're helping someone, we're helping someone. And so uh I think that, and keep in mind, that's still, quite a bit of ways ahead.
Mhm.
We're still just laying out the groundwork for all that. And we haven't really been focused on scaling out that just yet,
Mhm.
because there's still a lot, yeah, in development. But you can kind of get the bigger picture there of like how, just from a Discord server, it's grown to providing those resources, to providing, basically expanding across Discord, because like you said, yeah, not everyone wants to use Discord.
Mhm.
um, and then the educational aspect, which you kind of hinted on a bit, the wiki.
Mhm. Yeah, like the first thing that's always going to come up when you talk about, oh, we're using Discord, there is this subset of the FOSS community, like a subset of FOSS developers who are like, you shouldn't have anything FOSS related on Discord. You should be doing everything on Matrix or IRC or XMPP. I think it's a good goal to have, but at the same time, if your goal is to if your goal is to reach people who don't necessarily use only Linux,
Yeah, you read my mind.
yeah, it's very difficult to get them onto something where no one they talk to is using.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I I think one of the biggest issues, and that I've realized so much when watching people give support
Mm-mm.
and other things when new people come in, is like, and I'm pretty sure there's a like a fallacy or mental model or something like that, where we forget how much we know.
Right.
Like, we forget how, like, how much of an expert, quote unquote, we are about certain things. And like, while to me now, like, doing an arch install, like, I could probably, do it with my eyes closed. Like, yeah, I can do that, and so I could say that arch is easy. But for someone else, like, relatively,
Mm-hmm.
arch is not that hard. But in the perspective of someone who's like, has barely even touched it, doesn't even know what a terminal is, like, it's hard. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you can't beat around the bush. Like, it's hard. Even if they do read, there's
Mm-hmm.
still so many new words and concepts and terminology and stuff that they have to learn. And so, like,
Mm-hmm.
we kind of need to humble ourselves a bit, and like put ourselves back down a little, and realize like where people are at, and go back to what it was like to being a noob again. And I think with Matrix and these other things, like, just some of the terminology that Matrix uses as well, and like, and the user experience, like, hopefully, I don't know if it's improved at all. At
Mm-hmm.
least when I used to use Matrix a bit, sometimes, like, with the lag and cache issues and client issues, and like, the home network connections with invite links and
Mm-hmm.
et
Mm-hmm.
cetera, that it would cause quite it would cause a frustration for anyone that's new to this.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just have to be realistic with ourselves. Like, is the average Joe or whatever going to get on IRC or Matrix? No. Like, quit lying to yourself.
Yeah.
Like, and if you're not willing to provide a way for them, if like they're not worth your time because they aren't suitable for IRC or etc., then I feel like you're the problem.
Mm-hmm. I think a really good example of this is part of what I did that video, going back to the thing where I was saying about end of 10. I was going through the site, and one of the things that suggested when getting a Linux ISO is use Rufus. Just chuck it in Rufus, put it on USB, and you're good to go. And a bunch of comments were like, well, you can use Ventoy you can use Ventoy instead. It's just like, yes, you can, but at the same time, if I go to YouTube right now and look up how to flash a Linux ISO to a USB, there'll be 5,000 videos showing how Rufus works. And it just makes so much more sense to just direct them to that, because there is a lot less barrier to entry. Ventoy might be a far better way to do it, but it's just a needless additional hurdle for what, like something you're gonna use for 5 minutes and then never think about again.
I sometimes often see the people that when recommending what is it, Belena?
Lineature?
They're
Yeah.
like, yeah, they're like spyware.
I don't even know what that is. People just
have you heard that? That supposedly, I don't know.
that it's spy.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, supposedly it's spyware.
Okay, sure. I had a bunch of people telling me that Belena Extra is better than Rufus, so I don't know what to believe now.
Yeah, spyware. Everything is spyware. Even if it just pings once to back home, it's spyware.
I know there is definitely a contingent of people who think Ventoy is spyware, because there are some, like...
No way.
Yeah, there are some binaries included in Ventoy. This is something that was, like, sorted out. Like, the binary is still there, but this is, like, an issue that was sorted out, like, 6 months ago. The reason why they're there is to deal with some secure boot stuff. But everyone just skipped over that comment because it was one comment in a thread of, like, 500 messages.
Of course they're going to cherry pick it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Or not cherry pick it, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah, do the exact opposite.
Yeah.
What you're gonna have run into people who either intentionally or willingly just let themselves think they know more than they do. Like that, they will sort of, like when I did my video on sudo RS, there are a bunch of people who thought that sudo had a GPL license. I don't know where this came from. I don't know who started this. It came from the BSD space. Of course, it's not a GPL project.
I don't know. One person says something and then the rest join in.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like headline readers. Who knows?
So you've talked a couple of times about like the future plans you have for all things Linux, but what is the focus in the immediate short term?
How short term are we talking? Because my long term, when I think about like long term, I'm not looking at communities or etc. I'm looking at Linux Foundation type,
Right,
type goals. And so, I guess time is all relative and whatnot. I would say like,
well, what is the focus
think?
right now then? What is the main focus of things that need to be worked on, things that are being improved upon right now?
Yeah. Well, so I would say in the next year, the biggest thing would be, so with Tux in particular, we're about to get our first release. It's kind of hilarious. We're using a 0 dot number system. So 1 year later, 20,000 lines of code later, we're finally at 0.1. And so that's cool. And then we'll get on a proper development cycle with that. And there's like a whole roadmap. And then the HTML.wiki, we're about to have our first kind of formal release with that. And then we're going to be doing a bunch of different outreach to some contributors and different distributions and projects and things. Right now it's, a little weak on there. I don't know, maybe 200 some pages. A lot of that, to be honest, and there was a comment actually on the last video that was kind of adding some constructive criticism around MediaWiki,
Mm-hmm.
if it being is it of it questioning if it's the right choice, basically.
Right.
And we explored all sorts of different platforms, Material, MK Docs, MD Book, Gitbook, Wiki.js, you know, VitePress, Docusaurus. It's like so many. Um, and I will agree that wikis in that fashion to the new user, they can be a bit scary. Like
Mm-hmm.
they can be a bit daunting and confusing navigating. But I do think though that some of that is just kind of written in, or like that's just due to the traditional usage of how wikis have been set up. They've just always kind of gone that way. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that MediaWiki is so customizable and hackable that we can do some cool stuff with it when it comes to like custom theming and all the different plugins. And when we're maintaining a wiki of that size of what it will become, it's really important to be able to have that granular control in terms of like user permissions, different approval and revision management, um, different just quality of life things and stuff. So that's a big thing. Once we release that, doing outreach, then the next big project I would say is um, so we just did a big kind of hiring, if you will,
Okay.
run. Obviously, everything's volunteer work, but
Mm-hmm.
being a nonprofit, there is a benefit to that where people, that do work with us can, use that for school or
Mm-hmm.
job, things like that. On our website, there's a get involved page with all sorts of different roles, different kind of like departments. So we take on like community people in terms of moderation, management, the management side of things, creative, so different designers, artists, things like that. And then systems and development, so different, you know, front end, back end, Python, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So forming that really, that's been like, building a team and like bringing on the right people. I used to always like, before our call, I mentioned how I was job searching,
Mm-hmm.
a while back, and I was getting frustrated with recruiters and all this stuff, and I realized like how important, like when it comes to finding good talent and like good
Mm-hmm.
people, and like how difficult that can be. And so a lot of time has been spent recently, when it comes to like training and finding the right people and making sure that the vision's all there. And my biggest thing when it comes to team building and everything is like I want to get people that are great at what they do and like who love this thing. Of course, we're all kind of jack of all trades, but to provide resources and empower them to basically kind of become a leader in their own sense and to build out their own teams of people, and to
Mm-hmm.
then train those people and to continue that to where it's self-growing. And so one thing I'm always preaching to them is like document, document
Right.
everything, because if you, God willing, like vanish tomorrow, like and everything about how our servers work, you set up all our servers, well, like we're a bit screwed. And
Mm.
so that's a big thing. And yeah, just really building a team culture. We're like a family at the end of the day, really. We're growing, and so that's a big thing. uh what's else? We're moving to Ansible soon.
Okay.
That's a cool thing. We have multiple different servers through Hetzner. Shout out to Hetzner. They're cheap, simple, really good hardware. Um, and then we were actually considering NixOS for that, but I just felt it was a little too daunting for some people.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Maybe get that Red Hat, cosign. No, but the next big thing though, and hopefully my Wayland doesn't. destroy itself. Screen sharing and whatnot. Can I share something?
Yeah, I'll just have to
I'm
message
not
you
sure
over
if
there.
your stream setup has that.
It I should add it more consistently, but we can do that right now.
Okay. Let's see.
That is the wrong button. We want just
I
one
mean,
second. Window that one. That's what we wanted. Okay. Okay, now we're good.
can you see this?
Yep.
Okay. Well, so from that little short intermission, we're here. Now, this is something that I've been working. This is a little mock-up. Everything in it that you're gonna see is really just proof of vision, I guess you could say.
Okay.
So when I was mentioning about the ATL account, and I'm calling this portal temporarily. So imagine you come to this, right?
Mhm.
Sign in, whatever. Now, think about this as like their hub, their dashboard,
Right.
everything that they want related to our community and all the resources that we provide.
Uh-huh.
Gotta love these stats, right?
Yeah, I did notice those. Yeah, for sure.
Different blog posts, et cetera, et cetera.
Uh,
But we get into the fun stuff. So providing email access, SSH access, wiki statistics, all the APIs all interconnected,
mm,
them being fully self-service and managing that, providing web hosting, VPN services, all through this community, all integrated, all their different platforms, Signal, blah, blah, blah. The ability to have their IRC account, their XMPP account, all managed through one identity, being able to, like RSVP different events, which, by the way, we do have events quite often. We've done Raspberry Pi giveaways, Super Tux Kart events, Minecraft stuff, all types of fun things. We're actually going to be doing a very nice giveaway for 10K members. So if you are interested, shameless plug, join the server. So tools, a sort of toolbox, the different things, different compilers, different, kind of sandbox environments,
mhm.
networking tools, different encoding, text manipulation, translation tools, pastebin services. And this is the crazy one, ISO archive. So we got granted from Google.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I know, big scary Google, right? 100 terabytes of space.
Aha.
Okay, so I was like, well, what are we gonna do with all this space now? And I was like, archive. If we're thinking big, archive.org don't got shit on us. So we decided that we're gonna create the largest, most organized collection of Linux ISOs ever.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, if you go to, for example, where's it at? ISO.atl.dev.
Uh-huh.
This is just a mock thing. Um, all of these right now are like, for example, I don't know, let's just say I go to D. This is kind of slow, but if it wants to let me go into here.
Live demos.
Demo, the demo effect. Okay, so like we have the most niche distros you can imagine. Like there's some weird shit in here.
Uh-uh.
Okay, right now we have over 8 terabytes of ISOs, still counting. Um, Everything you can imagine, like everything, like just crazy stuff. So that has been a project in progress, and then through that we're scripting and automating that.
Uh-huh.
Like for all of the metadata and the tagging and the naming, and even the SHA checksums and all that stuff. It's all handled through a spreadsheet and etc.
Uh-huh.
So resources right here, this is kind of just still just an idea. Curating different resources, tutorials, documentation, wikis, etc., and then roadmaps. And so there's a website that I really love. It's called roadmap.sh. And if I go, for example, to the Linux one,
Uh-huh.
all of these, this is community created. If I click one of these, it's going to provide links out to different stuff.
Oh.
So if I go to front end, like front end development, if I go to here, boop, 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 etc. And so I just love this. I love the idea of this. I think it breaks down,
I had no idea
the
this
path.
existed.
Yeah, it's great. And they even now have AI generated ones. I don't care about your opinion if you like AI or not. It's still
Sure, sure.
cool. Like if I go to this and you could type in any topic and it's gonna live create an AI roadmap. And there's community roadmaps here,
Mm-hmm.
DevOps, all types of different things. And so I'm gonna reach out to them, see how I can get involved with them. If not, we'll do something on our own. I just think that would be so cool. Uh, Lastly, we got some changelog stuff. So throughout all our different projects, basically,
Uh-huh.
we can display that here. They can go to one place, and then support. However it means Discord, email, forums, so be it, FAQ stuff, etc., etc.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So as you can see here, like I'm really excited about this. I think this will be the coolest thing ever. Like for a community to have, like this just fires me up.
Jesus Christ. Um, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, where hide that one? Oh, close that. There we go. I was gonna ask, why do you have the non-profit? Now I understand why you have the non-profit.
Yeah. Big plans, big goals.
Yeah.
A lot of people doubted me at first. A lot of people didn't understand. They're like, "Why nonprofit? Like, you're just a Discord server."
Right,
Da,
right,
da, da.
right.
I was like, just wait, just wait. You don't see the vision. No, I think at the end of the day, communities are everything, of
Right,
course.
right, right.
But when you start creating these things and some of this has been long running. I've had that sitting in the back of my mind. Like I've had that developed for over 6 months now. Like,
Mhm.
that granted, that's more or less front end stuff. There's still, I have to do all the API
Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah,
development
yeah.
and back end and stuff like that. But, that is really, where it starts bridging out into like some real world impact.
Mm-hmm. So, why did you want to do all of this? Like, I, I sorry, I'm just still surprised by how much is going on here that's not listed on the website. I had a look through the site and saw it was there. I was not aware of how much was in development.
Mhm. Yeah. Why I wanted to do everything? Why I wanted to
Yeah,
do
what,
that?
like you said, the whole just running a Discord server was boring, but like there's a stopping point between where
Yeah.
you're at and not
Yeah.
boring.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, like I said, in my past life,
Uh-huh.
I've done a lot of different projects. Some of those have failed, definitely failed. I've always been big into education.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've always been in, like, I used to write a lot, I used to blog a lot, things like that. I used to help independent artists, musicians that wanted to make a career for themselves, that were
Mm-hmm.
independent, and I was teaching them kind of like entrepreneurship and how to approach being a musician in a more kind of business marketing like manner. And so there was a startup, I guess, that I was creating for a period of time
Mm.
that bridged community, education, and software. And so I built a whole MVP type product, very similar to what you saw right there, um, for musicians. And it didn't really go anywhere. And it was some kind of a passion project at the end of the day. But
Mm-hmm.
I just really believed like in well, for one, I just love software. Like at the end of the day, I just love software. Two, I love education. And
Mm-hmm.
three, I'm a people person. So I was like, well, how can we connect all this together? and that's just where my head went. And so obviously when it comes to funding and stuff, I was like, well, like, everyone talks about open source, like you're not, open source doesn't make any money,
Sure.
like
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you
yeah.
can't make a career in open source and this and that. Like, and if you do, like, like you have to get lucky and it has to catch fire and it has to be something
Right,
pretty
right, right.
serious. Um, but a lot of those open source things, like those are like tools,
Mm,
software, etc. Like it doesn't make sense for them to be a whole nonprofit. Like it just
mm,
that's not going to work. And so for us, when we started having the idea of kind of becoming something bigger, more serious, it just made sense. It was like the only thing that made sense because, people wanted to donate and I didn't accept any donations yet for quite a while. I was like, if I'm going to accept donations and stuff, like I need to make sure everything's neat and tidy. I don't want to like, like mismanage people's funds and
mm,
there needs to be that layer of transparency and stuff. And so yeah, and keep in mind everything up till almost pretty much a year was
mm,
all self-funded through me. um so when I got that set up and everything, yeah, I mean, now plenty of donations coming in. They're going to the bank, not touching them right now, waiting to the perfect moment. And then once we kind of have that initial capital to do some cool things, then we start going to the grant sponsorship funding route. And
mm,
once we do that, and already, I mean, we've already signed up through a lot of different programs and stuff. And so we've gotten some pretty awesome deals, like, for example, with, some project management tools, like I said, with Google, different, what else do we have? GitHub for nonprofits. There's just so many resources out there for
mm,
nonprofits that I'm like, hell, I'm about to take advantage of all this.
mm,
Like whatever that can power the mission.
mm. So I can see that you are very dedicated to this and you have some grand visions. But obviously you can't speak for what's going on inside someone's head, but other people involved in the project, like, what is the sort of reception that they have when they sort of, when you talk about this grand vision, when you come up with some new idea that you're like, okay, this is something 10 years from now, this is where we want to be. Like, how do other people react to that?
Um, Everyone is pretty like they're locked in. Like everyone,
Mm-hmm.
I'm amazed at how much support that everyone around me has given and dedicates. Whether it be I mean, in total right now, I think the team is around maybe 25 people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but throughout time, I think it's been maybe at least 30 to 40. And so, these are people that invest hours per day. Some people, some more than others, or some less than others.
Sure.
And I think providing them space to be able to like to build at their fullest potential and to
Mm-hmm.
like do, believing in them, believe it or not, and this is crazy. Obviously Discord, it's kind of a gaming platform.
Sure.
There's definitely a younger crowd, on there. um the one of the things that blew my mind, and I don't look it, I'm 28, or how old am I? Yeah, 20,
I know
29
that
this year.
feeling.
29 this year. And so like, there's a little bit of a generation gap, but like I fit in with them, when need be. But it makes
Hello,
me
fellow
proud to
kids.
see, like, I see like 14-year-olds in the community that are coding like Rust in like Haskell and running Gentoo and stuff. And that
Mm-hmm.
just blows my mind. Like that is the coolest thing ever to me. Because like, I mean, I started pretty young,
Mm-hmm.
maybe like 12 or something like that. But this was like, but I was like the single nerdy computer kid
Right,
like
right,
back then.
right.
Like, there wasn't anyone else around me doing that thing. And now like there's so many that are in this community.
Yeah, yeah.
And for the longest time, typically most of the staff team that we have is older, but there's a few people in particular. There's one person who's like 14, and like they're more mature than any single person on my Facebook list.
Mhm.
Like, like they blow my mind with how much they do. They have full SSH access to all my servers, Cloudflare, everything. Like that's how much trust I have in them. And I think by providing that opportunity to empower people to be like, hey, like you're at the start of something great.
Mhm.
I believe in you. Will you believe in me? Like, let's have that trust and let's do great things.
Mhm.
Then
Mhm.
just magic happens there because then have like people will give their all or whatever they can give to it and
Mhm.
and work to their best ability and I think if we're all aligned in that,
Mhm. Mhm.
um yeah, great things can happen.
Yeah, we're about the same age. You're a little bit older than I am. I just turned 27 this year. Um, but like I sort of get what you're saying as well with that. Like I remember back when I was, 10, 11, getting into all this stuff, and there were resources available, right? Like, people who are in their 40s go like, "Oh, you have so many resources available when you were a kid. You should have done more." Like I didn't even have the internet when I was a kid. But
Yeah.
like nowadays someone growing up, they have access to millions upon millions of videos. There are so many incredible tools. Like this, one like simple example: game development. Game development is so
Yep, yep, yep.
incredibly accessible now. Like I started working with Godot very recently. It is
Mm.
crazy how easy Godot is. Like I've got a bit of experience with Unity of like a couple of years ago, but it is just it like so much that you would have had to do yourself is just done by the engine. And then if you want to dig in further, there are so many videos out there and so many resources out there on like those deeper parts you might want to understand, that if you're someone who is dedicated, you're someone who really does want to learn, like people say like, oh, with the internet you don't necessarily need a formal education anymore. Like that is true. Like the formal education model is a very slow model, it's a very particular model, and it still has value, don't get me wrong.
I
But
dropped out of college 3 times.
okay, maybe it doesn't have value for you. But
Just put
there
it out there.
that no, that's fair. But like it there are people that still find value from it. But if you're someone who is dedicated and you don't want to go down that route,
Yeah.
like if you go to a hacker conference, right? Like I saw this is a
Mhm.
really good example. I saw a blog post from someone who they went through a software engineering degree. They just graduated. They went to some like hacker event, some like what do you call it? Like a
Hackathon?
code jam, something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and they had no idea what was going on. Like everyone there was like younger than them, had no
Yeah, yeah,
formal
yeah,
education
exactly.
experience. They'd been programming for 15 years and they're like
Yeah.
18 years old, right?
Yeah.
Like
Out the womb.
yeah, exactly. It's like if
Yeah.
you're someone who is really dedicated to this, you can learn so much.
Yep.
You get such
I
a
mean,
head start over other people.
that's why, like, for example, even for people that, yeah, like that within the community that aren't programmers and they're like, oh,
Mm-mm.
like I want to become a programmer and stuff, by it's intimidating to get involved in
Mm-mm.
projects, especially open source. Like, thinking when you look at GitHub issues and da da da, and it's like your
Mm-mm.
first time wanting to contribute to something, like it's nerve wracking. Like you don't
Mm-mm.
know, like you don't want to look like an idiot, basically.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
don't want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
like do the wrong thing, or there's certain formalities and standards and stuff.
Mm-mm.
And so with Tux, I wanted to, for example, like I basically wanted to make it incredibly easy for people to get involved in terms of contribution
Mm-mm.
and for to create a like in terms of documentation and like setup local dev environment and all this different stuff to where like someone who didn't know Python at all could basically set it up
Mm-mm.
and get involved and I think like by allowing new people to get involved and to grow and whatnot and facilitate that. Obviously, that isn't scalable forever, as we
Sure. Yeah.
grow and grow. But to a degree, it is if we if we put into people's mind that like, okay, now I may not have the time to help these people, but I've helped you, and
Hmm.
you can now help the next person, and just
Hmm. Hmm.
continuing that on and on. And so same thing with like other projects, right? Like giving people incentive,
Hmm.
to help. Like, yeah, you can put this on your resume.
Hmm.
Like, even if you're a Discord moderator, fluff it up as much as you want. I don't care. Whatever makes
Community
you happy.
manager.
Yeah, like whatever,
Social
lead
media community
community.
manager. There you go.
Yeah, like whatever helps you and empowers you, by
Hmm.
all means, like I'm here for it.
Hmm. Yeah, I was just having a scroll through the developer guide and the contributing guide, and this is like really comprehensive. Like this, a lot of developer guides are made under the assumption that you're already a developer on the
Yeah,
project or
exactly.
already a well understood well understood how development environment works. This is really clear. Now obviously I'm someone who, has quite a lot of experience with development,
Mhm.
so maybe there's like some sort of pain point that I'm missing, but what has that experience been like with like new people who have sort of come into the project? I assume that has sort of shaped the way that you handle and like other people in the project handle these guides.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's been great. Actually, just brought on like two more maintainers, I think,
Mhm.
this last week or so, or not maintainers, but like soon to be maybe,
Sure, sure,
contributors.
sure.
And I mean, they got up and going. Like, I don't know. I mean, if you go through it and read it and whatever,
Mhm.
you at least have a basic setup going. I mean, you can get going in 15 minutes, 10
Mhm.
minutes or whatever.
Mhm.
And we even, for example, we have a separate server for different testing and whatnot. We provide like uh, bot tokens, that
Mhm.
they can use in live database URLs that we have that they can just like use, so they don't even have to set that up.
So I just opened up the code. I have not seen an open source project that has in code documentation this comprehensive,
Yeah. So
like,
so every
ever.
so the entire project is documented like doxing wise,
Ah,
and then the entire project is also strictly typed, like
right. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, and it uses very very modern, like kind of paradigms, I guess, and and,
Mm,
and libraries, in terms of logging and error handling,
mm.
and it's very I think it's I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it.
Yeah, you should be. This is really nice. I open up a lot of open source projects and like I get it, right? Because most open source projects, the intention is it's one person working on it and then other people happen to come along. And
Mhm.
it's clear from this that the intention is that you want other people working on it. It's not supposed to be something that you just maintain until the end of time.
Yeah, no, that was always from the beginning, was how do we get as many people as possible to be able to contribute?
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's why like we went in Python as well, just because it was probably the most
Yeah,
reasonable for, the mass majority.
yeah. Like people complain about like language choices, but yeah, maybe it's not the
It's
fastest
fine.
thing out there, but it's a great
It's
language.
a
It's
Discord bot, okay? At the end of the day, it's a Discord bot, and like you're still limited by
the Discord API speed.
uh,
Yeah,
yeah, Discord API speed. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I like Python. It wasn't my first language. My first language was Java, which you know, um,
I mean,
I much prefer writing Python, and I don't know. I think this sort of goes back to the elitism you were talking about before. I think there is some sort of elitism around like syntactic sugar
oh, for
because
sure.
a language like I could imagine a equivalent level of functionality for something like a C++ or a C that is built from the ground up with more modern syntax standards, where it sort of removes a lot of the additional stuff that kind of feels confusing without actually
Mm,
changing how it works. Where it's
mm.
it's developed with more of a Python style look to it. And I
Yeah,
think,
human readable.
yeah. And it makes sense, right? Because C, and then C++, obviously, because it stems from that background. It's from a much earlier time in development. And you can see a
Uh,
lot of modern languages do take a more, like, human readable approach. Um, and I think a lot of people sort of confuse the idea of complex syntax as, like, I don't know, it's something you can learn. Like, complex syntax isn't hard. It's just a barrier, right? Like, I look at
yeah.
Rust code and I'm like, there it's
It's just there's just a lot of like hieroglyphics, so be it.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
there's just a lot of symbols, like da da da, like
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Haskell, even so be it.
Well, just like a basic thing that you can do in a more modern looking language is remove the like ampersands and just write and if you want to do and
Yeah,
like
true, true.
just basic things like that, which to someone who is new to programming, it immediately makes it feel just slightly more readable. It's one less thing they have to worry about when they're getting up to speed.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
So earlier you were talking about like bringing people on, and you were talking about like problems you had with recruiters and all of that. Like, how do you go about actually bringing someone on? Like, what is the I assume there's some sort of interviews process there. Like, once you actually do bring someone on, what is that onboarding process actually like? I'm sure obviously it'll be different for the different things they're involved in, but
Hmm.
like as like a general sort of idea, like how do you go about approaching this? And I assume that you're not the only one involved in handling that. You would probably have other people involved in it as well.
Yeah, 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 yep. Um, so we obviously have the website.
Mm.
There's a if you check it out, there's a get on the far right. There's a button, get involved,
Uh-huh.
and so you can see the different like teams, I guess you could say, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
departments if you're going to be formal, and different positions.
Mhm.
So those people can apply for, and then we also so at the very start of the server, most of the moderation and whatnot, and because at the beginning it was just moderators,
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
all these other new roles and stuff didn't exist. Eventually, then that grew. We kind of have like we do have a hierarchy system, although it's not like your traditional like I am your boss, da 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 da. Like
Yeah.
we're still all equals. It's more so the hierarchy is to provide wisdom and advice, and for people that have more experience and time to maybe handle more complex issues like kind of interpersonal drama and just things that need a little bit of
Right, right,
more like
right.
care, special touch. And so um yeah, we have that hierarchy, and then um yeah, so at first it was basically people that I knew, people that I trusted through some other different communities and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. I said, hey, like I need help. The very early days were pretty rough. Like it was some very long hours. And then that started growing to, yes, to basically we would start people off as junior moderators. That
Mm-hmm.
would be kind of like a trial period. They would become moderators, senior moderators, admin. There's now an admin assistant role, and what that looks like. So actually, so I will say this too.
Mm-hmm.
I have a vibes sort of thing. Okay,
Uh-huh.
I just like, and some of the people think I'm crazy about it because like it'll just be a complete stranger who has like 500 messages in the server, 300 messages, and I'm just like, they're the one.
Right,
Like
right, right.
they're
No, I
just
get what
like
you're saying.
I just know like they're just I just can feel it. I can
Mm-hmm,
tell
mm-hmm,
the
mm-hmm.
way they write, everything about them, the things that they're interested in. Like they would be
Yep, yep,
great for
yep,
the
yep.
team, and it's usually always worked out. And so for those people, I'll send them a message like, hey, like, are you interested in potentially joining us? Da da da, da. And they join. And so there's been a handful of those that I've just seen and reached out to,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
then equally. Yeah, so how that works is people will apply, we'll go through the senior mods and stuff, will also chime in, review it, add in their pros and cons of that. Obviously we're looking for different things like time zones that can help a lot. The team right now is comprised of people all the way from West Coast America, East Coast, Central, Switzerland, I think Sweden, Bulgaria, uh, Australia. Yeah, shout out Australia. A lot of places, and
Mm-hmm.
so time zones matter. Age and age is a thing where like typically there's some exceptions. We do have an age limit of 16 plus for pretty much, but there's a few exceptions for like the super genius savant
Sure, sure.
people, like, especially when they're in more technical roles where it doesn't matter as much, like for moderation.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll reach out to them, say, hey, blah, 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 we're interested in your application. We'll invite them to a
Mm-hmm.
call, schedule that out. Typically, by this point, we don't really have an interview process.
Right.
It's more or less like we just go straight into it. And for moderator positions, typically because we have that junior period,
Mm-hmm.
which is maybe 2 weeks to a month or a month and a half. But we'll have a personally like one-to-one onboarding that
Mm-hmm.
lasts like I don't know, maybe about 45 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll go through basically everything about the role, um, the server, the bots, ticketing processes, the sort of uh, the expected like standard operating procedures of how a ticket, some few rules, different things like that, different resources. Our moderator handbook you can find on our GitHub as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, Q&A stuff, some yeah, stuff like that.
Right, right, right. And I assume that you also have some like moderator chat. If someone is unsure about something, they can reach out to other mods, ask them
That's
about
our
something.
number one rule.
Uh-huh.
Just ask.
Mm-hmm.
If
Mm-hmm.
you ever have any hesitation, doubt, confusion, wonder, whatever, just ask.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Always ask. And I always, kind of stress like at the end of the day, this is just Discord, right? Like this is like, we can take our time. We don't, there's no need to stress. Like, tickets don't have to be answered like this. Like, and our ticket response times are crazy good, like far better than some other places. But I mean, hell, we have probably better ticket response time than Fortune 500 companies at this point. But yeah, so but just ask, just ask.
Mm-hmm. 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 So it sounds like there's a lot in place to really make the process as easy as possible. This seems like a trend across a lot of what's being done here. The idea is, how do we get people involved? How do we bring them on in a way that they get up to speed? And I guess, well, I guess when you have something as big as, well, what it is right now, but also the plans you have going forward, sort of being able to bring people on as easy as possible is really important. And it at least seems like that's what you've achieved here. Now, obviously, with things expanding even more, are you going to be able to keep that up with everything? It's a goal,
So
but
So in terms of onboarding, for example,
mm.
obviously like that takes time. Like,
Sure, yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
had so there was a person that was on the team that actually was kind of that was their thing. Like they handled all onboarding and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
They had to take a break, just personal stuff, and so I kind of moved to that.
Mm-hmm.
And then last, I don't know, like 3 weeks ago or so, after a big like hiring run, quote unquote, um, I think we had like 60 something applications for that across all different roles.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to go through all of those. And then I think we brought on maybe six
Mm-hmm.
new team members. And I did all of those that in 1 week. So that's six nearly 45-minute calls.
Mhm.
Like, that's a lot. Like that's a lot of talking.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it
yeah.
can be strenuous. Um and so doing that, can I keep that up personally with all the other stuff going on? Probably not, and I think now that we're in the process of like, we routinely like promote people within it, like we just had a moderator that what's crazy enough is that this moderator at the, earlier on, I thought, oh, like we might have to let them go or like, I don't know if like they're cutting it. Well, things changed and now I just promoted them to senior mod. Like because, like they showed their potential and,
Mhm, mhm,
their
mhm.
wisdom, their maturity and stuff. And so I think continuing that, we just brought on also a new assistant administrator,
Mhm.
and we're setting a plan now or like in motion the sort of project management aspect to all of this so that it's now removed out of my brain and
Right,
in a safe
right.
space. And then once we have that, in plan and or in process, things can go a lot more smoothly, and we can train people for those things.
Mhm.
Um, Although I do, we at the end of the day we do strive to keep that personal touch, though. I've questioned the idea of like, and we're in the process of creating kind of like some onboarding like slide deck type stuff,
Mhm.
but I even question like, oh, like should we like record this and like
Mm.
give them the video? But nah, like personal touch is everything.
Mhm, mhm. Right. Yeah, you don't want it to become you don't want it to start having like this like corporate feel to it where it's like
Yeah, yeah,
here is
exactly.
our onboarding video.
Yeah, exactly.
Watch our 20-minute video to understand how to
Yeah,
fit in here.
yeah.
Gotta
Because
love
because
those.
a lot of people, believe it or not, like some people have, you know, expressed concern that
Mm.
they feel like, we're going in a quite corporate nature and things like that. But I think those people just don't want to let go of like it can't.
The
It's no
friend groupy
longer this
stuff from
small.
early
It's
on.
no longer this small friend group anymore.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it changed whenever we got GG Sauce and Linux.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it can't be that small group forever. And like ever since we started getting the idea of doing more, it was destined to come. And even it was raised to me just recently about the level of activity, thanks to you, because after your video, we got a surge of people,
Mhm, mhm.
and for like 3 days, it was like our busiest day of ever.
My
Like there was
apologies.
over 20,000 messages for 4 days straight. 20,000 messages. Like our staff was just like it was intense. Like at one point in time, we had to set the slow mode to I think like 15 seconds, and it still was just like going by. And so people were expressing, in kind of the more private chats of like that they were like they didn't like it, like because it
Uh-uh.
was just so much. There was so much activity and stuff, and I'm like, who knew that success would be my curse now? Like,
Right,
what?
right,
How?
right.
Like, what do I say to this? Like, and granted, I try to take feedback from everyone. Like, feedback is the most important thing to me. I'll even go out of the way if I see like a kind of a notable name, a member leave the server. I'll go out and DM them, be like, hey, I saw you leave. Like, we valued you here. Did something go wrong? Is there something that we should know about? Do you have any suggestions or
Mhm,
improvements?
mhm.
And 90% of the time it's just like something personal, like they just needed a break or blah
Right,
blah
right.
blah. And I mean, there was even a few people that are like, wow, like I've never had a owner of a server reach out to me because I left, like, and they joined back because of that.
Mhm, mhm.
And so like I think uh yeah, like it was always destined to continue growing,
Mhm.
and we've had to, move some channels around and shift some conversations because
Yeah, I
our
did notice
general
when I
chat,
popped back in, like, the general
yeah,
chat wasn't where I had expected it to be, or is
yeah,
there
yep,
even a
yep,
general
yep.
chat anymore?
Well, so it's like general tech. We kind of
Right,
beforehand,
okay.
so we created an off-topic channel to kind of shift off-topic conversations out of general, because general chat has just been the staple of our community. Like
Right, right.
always, there's probably over 6 million messages just in general chat alone.
Uh-huh.
Um, and it was just becoming too much. Like
Yeah,
it just
yeah.
wasn't feasible. And so, yeah, a lot of people did not like that. It was like I had to just beat it on people's heads. Go to off topic, go to off topic, go to off topic.
Right, right, right.
But yeah, I mean, I think it was just we just had to.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Like general is in a lot of Discord servers, it's the main place because it's the general thing. It's the miscellaneous chat. So anything can happen there, and it ends
Yep.
up being that the other channels don't like, even like my server's a lot smaller. It's just like people chatting
Yeah.
shit a lot of the time. But even there, like I have some dedicated channels for things. It's like, oh, there is a dedicated like Linux
Yeah.
like channel here to talk about Linux, but because like the
It
server's
ends up
generally
becoming a
Linux.
support server,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Like I have a dedicated help me channel, and like people will go to general because that's like the place where people are actually talking. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
like in my
Yeah.
case it
Because
doesn't really
people like
matter.
attention.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like the like in my case it doesn't really matter because the server's not really that serious anyway. It's just like a thing with the channel. But if the goal is to
Yeah.
actually make something where it feels like a useful resource, a community
Yeah.
that makes sense, I completely understand why you'd have to make that change.
Yep. Cost of success, I guess.
Uh-huh, yeah. I was having a look at that video. I had 25,000 views, so I'm not surprised that a few people may have joined.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was way more of a turnout than I expected.
Hmm. Yeah,
And then plus the PewDiePie stuff as well, kind of, I think.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know if it was exactly correlated, but it just felt like it. It felt like there was a lot more people coming in. And then we also got just recently the guild tags in like,
Oh,
what I
that
mean?
thing. Is that what that
Yeah,
is?
so we have guild tags and we put ATL, and so once we did
Uh-huh.
that, like now it's just like we have an army of Atlanteans or whatever, whatever you want to
Right.
call them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
I've
because people can free promo, I guess.
I had to ban someone the other day because of the guild tag system. Because someone thought it would be funny
Mm.
to join a server where it's like, oh, let's have the tag be NIGG. No,
Oh
no,
no.
go away. Like,
Uh,
Discord's gonna ban that soon enough, but like, no, we're not doing that here.
yeah, they have like no filter system right now. We've seen
Hmm.
some crazy ones,
Yeah.
but actually, auto mod does block them.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, yep. If you, I think it's in like username. If you're in the username filter or whatever.
Right, right. Yeah, this was like the day they started showing up, so I don't know if anything's changed since then, but like yeah, it was I just saw it out of nowhere. I was like, is this some like new Nitro feature or something? What is this? Why
Yeah,
is this here? And does
yeah. It's like
that
slow race right now. It's
hmm
just random.
right, right. So is like the if you click on like the ATL tag, does that like act as like a link to the server or something as well?
Yeah, if you look at mine,
Oh
I
yeah, yeah,
think
yeah.
you should be able to see.
Ah, so I can click on adopt tag and I guess I see, I see. Okay.
Yeah. It shows a little banner and some
Hmm.
info about us and stuff like that.
So that sort of acts as like more marketing in and of itself as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think it definitely helped out.
Hmm. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
like you need more users over there right now.
I mean, we're about to break 10K. We have actually a countdown on Twitch right now. If
Hmm.
you, if you go to our Twitch or whatever,
If
it's
you
like
there's a
countdown to 10K.
what's the Twitch? Is it
It's just all things Linux.
all things
It
links?
may be up still.
Oh,
One of the person was doing it. They had like some crazy OBS setup with like Ask Aquarium
oh,
and their personal PC.
yep. Okay, here we go. Here we go.
Is it
Uh,
still up?
yep.
Yeah.
9,915.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Oh, that's cool. No, it's really cool that the servers almost hit 10K. Like that is crazy. Cause
Actually, you know what? I may as well say while we're here,
okay.
may as well take the opportunity. For 10K, we're gonna give away a super riced out ThinkPad.
Okay, that's cool.
Yep. So other shameless plug. If
It's
you
all
want,
good. It's all good.
if you want to ThinkPad, no, but yeah, we're gonna do that. Hopefully, someone in need definitely gets that.
Hmm, hmm.
Um, Still got to work out some things around that on how to actually get it to them,
Right,
depending
right,
on
right.
where they're at and stuff like that. They have to like give money or gift card if I can't exactly ship it or blah blah blah. But yeah,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
gonna definitely hook someone up.
Hmm, hmm. So we've talked a lot about the project itself. We haven't really talked much about your background. Like how did you sort of get involved in using Linux? How did you get involved in development? And yeah, what's that look like for you?
Yeah, so I grew up being just tinker, tech savvy, I guess. Like I loved computers. I think I started with Windows 95. I think that was my first PC. Had a CRT, all that good stuff, floppy disk. Like, I got to live those glory days, and
Mhm,
my parents were pretty tech savvy as well, and so that's why I kind of had that opportunity. And when I was, I don't know, maybe like 12, I'd
mhm,
say, 11, something, 10. Well, here, actually, first to clarify,
mhm.
I grew up playing old school RuneScape. Okay, so that taught me the.
Well, it wouldn't have been old school RuneScape
Oh,
back then.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was just
yeah. Well,
RuneScape back
yeah,
then. RuneScape
RuneScape,
2.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
was the same.
So okay, so I grew up with that. That taught me how to type. Okay, that taught me how to not get scammed. Okay,
Yep, yep, yep.
that
Yep,
taught
we
me
did.
social dynamics
I
and
fell for an armor
how.
trimming scam at least once.
Yeah, yeah. That taught me how to test out different scripts and
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
auto clickers and all types of different things like that. And so um, that, and then growing up on forums, obviously forum culture and stuff back then was so much stronger. And then I watched the movie Hackers. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
watched the movie Hackers and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I just loved it. And me being the little deviant that I was, I was like, I'm gonna be an actor. Like, I was this stereotypical skid, like that everyone clowns, and so I started getting into the hacking forums and things like that. Batch, I started monkeying around with batch viruses, quote unquote. Uh, Here's a little incriminating story. I
Uh-huh.
remember I remember one time in the school computer lab, I took a USB and I had
Mm-hmm.
a batch quote unquote virus that was a batch file compiled to a exe with a custom Internet Explorer icon, and I switched it out with the computer lab's Internet Explorer. You click it, it just like exploded full of command prompts and all types of different stuff. Um, so yeah, so just harmless stuff like that, and
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
uh uh telnet and just doing all that. And I remember I am not telling the information this how to find it, but if someone wants to dig deep, there's a YouTube video nearly 15 years ago of me doing a tutorial on how to install Backtrack. Do
Uh-huh.
you know what that is?
No.
Wow, I schooled Brody on a Linux thing. That's crazy.
That track.
Backtrack Linux. I think it was Backtrack R2, R5, R3, something like that.
Um, okay.
It was based on Knoppix Linux.
Yeah, I found the
It was
Wikipedia page
it was
for it. Yeah.
Kali basic. It was Kali before Kali.
Right, right, right.
Yep. So there's a tutorial
Oh, it
15 years
literally was
ago.
Cali before Cali. Yeah, okay. Right,
Yeah,
right, right.
yeah, yeah. Yep. So that was kind of my initial early experience was that, and then like Ubuntu, I guess, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just for pen testing stuff and etc. Stuff that I can definitely not say on this
Uh-huh.
video.
Uh-huh.
And then eventually some kind of like try hack me, hack this site, hack the box type stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, And I actually wanted to pursue a career in ethical hacking or like offensive security and stuff like that
Hmm, hmm.
for a long time. And then I didn't. I don't know what happened. I just lost it. No, actually, no, I know what happened. Uh, something that I can't say happened. And
Uh-huh.
then, I changed career paths. I got into like music. I got really
Mm,
big. I started DJing and stuff.
okay.
Actually, like the coolest present ever. I think it was like 12, 13, something like that. 14. I got a pair of turntables for my birthday and started DJing, producing music, etc. That grew and grew. That's when I got into the music business, event marketing, all that stuff. Got bored of that,
Mm,
started doing consulting, like digital marketing, like software stuff,
mhm, mhm.
and the thing about that though is I always still had the hacker in me, like, and I kind of coined it. There's a term growth hacking in the
Mm,
marketing world, but corporate buzzword world,
mm,
growth
mm.
hacking, I guess. It's kind of taking that hacker sort of bootstrappy mindset and applying it to digital marketing and stuff.
Right.
And so I had that, and that relied a lot on technology, whether it be different API integrations and working with different automation and um, just things like kind of low code, no code type stuff.
Mm, mm, mm.
And I was getting frustrated. I hated working in like these visual tools and
Right.
these graphical interfaces where I was sandboxed to like their ways and their approach, and I had to like learn that, and it was just a hindrance because I knew like I could read code for the most part, and I felt like I could think like a programmer.
Hmm.
Just that kind of logical reverse engineering systems mindset. But I didn't know the syntax.
Mm.
That was really just it. At the end of the day, that's all it is. It's just syntax and documentation. The rest, the mindset that I mentioned, is what glues it together. And I just got frustrated. And so I was like, screw it. I'm becoming a developer. And I I went and had a boot camp. I went
Mhm.
through a boot camp. I know boot camps get a lot of uh, like there's some good ones, some bad
Yeah, yeah,
ones.
yeah, yeah.
For those that don't know what a boot camp, basically like it's like boot camp. You're put to the test for many hours a day. Some are less than others, but
Hmm.
for my case, I spent a year on in this boot camp. It was more extreme than others.
Okay.
Basically coding for like 8 hours a day, every day,
Right, right,
every
right.
day. Yeah, like hardcore. And I learned full stack software development, web development, backend development, API development, database, just everything. Uh, that was hell. Like that. Like for the longest time, I wanted to do this actually years before then, but
Hmm.
I had so much self doubt. Like I just felt like I couldn't do it. Like I was like, people are born programmers,
Hmm. Hmm.
I
Right.
don't have it in me. And I learned like anyone can program. Anyone can program. It all comes down to determination. Granted, yes, there may be some cases of extremely low IQ or something like that that
Sure,
would
sure,
take
sure.
into a play, and like those, but at least in this case, if you want to like if your dream is to become a NBA player and you're 4'10", you're probably not going to become an NBA player.
Maybe not that short. There actually is a really short professional. It's like a hyper exception. But
Oh
like,
yeah,
yeah, there's like one guy who's like real
okay.
short, but is like
And
really impressive.
they like pick him up before shots. Throw the ball. He's like a super secret attack.
Right, but no, I get the point you're making. Like,
Yeah,
there are like some like if you want to be a sprinter, like you need a certain build. If you want to be a swimmer, you need a certain build. If you want to be in
exactly.
basketball, like for the most part, you need a very certain build. You cannot
Yeah.
get over those physical limitations.
With programming though, it just comes down to determination, just grit, pure grit, just grinding it out, just reading the docs, just when it feels like you've hit the limit and you just, you know, there was moments, especially in because this was very like diverse in terms of what we learned. So, had tons of projects, tons of self-paced work, job searching, kind of
Mm,
like
mm,
that
mm.
type learning. But then a lot of it um, I don't even can't remember the name. DSA, data structures and algorithms.
Right.
So things like shit, what is it called? Leak code and things like
Ah,
that.
yes, 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 yes.
So like during that period, and there was a period where I think it was a full section, part of the course was that there were sprints basically. I spent 120 days on the DSA section. Okay,
Uh-huh.
like I'm pretty sure I cried at some points because we had to do these like challenges continually where they were proctored. We had to do like turn on webcam, like they had to see their screen and everything. You couldn't access like outside resources except like
Uh-huh.
official documentation. And we had to do these like 4 or 5 questions within a span of, however long, maybe it was like 4 hours or something.
Right,
And these
right,
are
right.
tough stuff. Like, stuff that they're like, interviewing you when you apply for Google and stuff.
Right.
And like, oh man, like if you talk about a moral, I mean, talk about a like, what is the word I want to say? Like a self just put down, like
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
self-worth put down or whatever. Like, you just feel like, holy crap, like I don't know nothing. I am a complete idiot.
Mm,
Like everything that I've been learning for this year, like, you're just looking at it and it's kind of the point.
mm.
Just like a boot camp, just like the military. They say like the whole point of it is to like break you down to build you up, basically.
Right.
And so I held it through
Uh-huh.
and I did it. And now, so I didn't know Python
Mm.
before I made Tux, before I started Tux. I learned Python 100% through Tux in nine
Mm.
months. Just because I learned, the biggest thing that the boot camp really taught me was I learned how to learn.
Right. Right.
I learned how to learn. And so once I knew that, I learned stuff like TypeScript, JavaScript, CSS, HTML, Node, all that stuff. Python, like just syntax at the end of the day. And then I also learned, yeah, programming is just like 50% Googling and reading documentation. Like once you learned how to learn, then like you're good to go. And
Mm.
so that empowered me, like that I was like, wow, like I could do anything now. Like
Mm.
pretty much. Like sky's the limit in terms of like programming and technical things.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, you truly went to a code boot camp. Like, I have not heard of one where it's as extreme as what you
Hmm.
did. Most of
Oh,
them
so
are
wait.
like short courses, like
No, yeah,
fairly
yeah.
like fairly normal. Like
Night
that's
classes and
that's
stuff like that.
actually
Yeah.
a code boot camp.
Yeah, for sure. But I did totally. I could sometimes go on giant tangents, but so I did that.
Oh.
But throughout all this period of time, let me keep in mind, I was the only person using Linux in my boot camp class too.
Uh-huh.
So,
Uh-huh.
I was like the special one. And like when I first had my recruiter person or whatever, I was talking with them, and they were like, oh, trying to like help me get set up for the course and everything. And this guy's like a full gray beard, like ex like DOD, like cyber engineer. And like he saw that I was running Arch Linux, he's like, "Oh, you're good." He was
Mhm.
like, "No worries." And but yeah, so before I started the boot camp, I was daily driving Arch Linux for I
Mm,
don't know, maybe
mm,
like 2 years or so. I spent most of my time learning Linux, like completely headless, like
mm.
through SSH services, because I maintained a ton of servers
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
through
uh-huh.
a beast of a thing, uh something that I'm NDA'd on that I can't talk
Sure,
about
sure,
really,
sure,
but
sure.
managing Docker servers, Ansible, Traefig,
Right,
Ophelia,
right, right,
tons
right.
of different services. And so yeah, basically 2 years I spent learning Linux completely through SSH.
Mm-hmm.
Then I decided, yeah, Arch Linux. I just had to, and then
Right,
yeah,
right, right.
I did. Yeah, I manually installed it. For anyone questioning me, uh, did that. It was fine.
Mm-hmm.
Been fine, and then yeah, I just got super nerdy out, like my dot files and stuff. You can find them on my GitHub.
Mhm, mhm,
Went down the whole route. I use Sway, big on window managers, big on CLI stuff,
mhm, mhm,
uh,
mhm.
ZSH, etc., all types of different things like that. And then, yeah, I think I've really wanted to use NixOS for a long time. I love the idea of NixOS,
Mhm, mhm.
but I just didn't have the time for it. Yeah, and then now I'm here.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would question if you installed Arch yourself when you said you spent a few years managing servers before you like you came from the opposite direction where you were like already doing Linux stuff in like an industry
Yeah,
context and then went to
yeah,
desktop afterwards.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like you're very comfortable on a terminal like that. Like that's the first thing that scares a lot of people. It's like, oh, I have to like write commands in. Like, what if I break something? How? What if I do something that ruins the computer?
No, I love the terminal, and I love window managers because of that speed. It just
Mm-hmm.
feels so much more fluid and like muscle memory wise. Like, you know, it- people look at me while I'm opening up stuff. I'm just spawning terminals. They're like, how do you just do that? And it's just like it's intuitive. But when I use like I don't use a file manager. Like the aspect of like going in, like opening this up and like like the mental lag of like dragging my mouse, so finding this, clicking this. I'm just like,
Right.
I don't know, like I just hate it. Like it just I don't like
Mm-hmm.
it.
When you opened up your desktop before, what were you using as your what are you using right now?
Sorry, say it again.
When you screen shared before, I saw the bar you had. What desktop are you running right now? I assume it's some sort of window manager.
Oh, it's Sway.
Ah,
And
okay.
if you look at here, I'll show you my dot files. Uh,
Oh, yep. Okay.
yeah,
Okay. GitHub load. There you go. Okay. 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 Okay.
pretty.
Ooh, that is pretty.
Yeah, I'm a big Tokyo Night shill.
I see. I see. I see. Terminal Ghosty, Sway Window Manager, CSH. Are you a VS Code user? Waybar. I've not Fuzzle. Not heard of. Oh,
Puzzle.
you do
It's
have
like
a
a
file manager.
DB
You do
locator.
have Thunar there.
Yeah, I just stuck it there for like, whatever.
Ah,
You
sure,
look,
sure.
go to my config. You'll see like six different terminal configs. They're just all
Okay.
stored there. Yeah, if you
Okay.
go there, you'll see like,
Alacrity,
yeah, you'll see
Ghosty.
like all of them. Western, Kitty,
Right, right. You
yeah.
got Ranger in there somewhere as a file manager.
Yeah, yeah. I just
Okay.
explored them all, but I kept it because I themed them and tweaked them out. Like I was just like min-maxing everything for a period of time. Like I just went down the whole like kind of Unix porn route of just like
Right, right.
trying every single tool and utility. And after I did that, I mean, I learned a lot from it. Like it was a great exercise. It taught me so much and
Mm-mm.
got me comfortable even further. But then I came back to it and I was just like, yeah, I don't need any of this. This is all like for a period of time, actually, at one point, I think my way bar was broken,
Mm.
and so I wasn't running any bar for like 6 months. Like, I was just like, what do I need a bar for? Like,
True. Yeah, I can respect that.
I was like, what do I need a bar for? Like, I'm switching anyways.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, I guess like, oh, I could, uh, for my whatever you call it, system tray. That's
Yeah.
about the only thing I guess that would be useful for.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm
Well,
very minimalist.
yeah, I can see that. Oh, you also use GNU Stow as well. That's cool. I've been meaning
Yeah,
to look.
yeah,
People have bugged me to look at that for a long time. I just never got around to it.
yeah.
Um.
Actually, my entire config directory right now is a Git repo.
Mm.
Yeah. So Stow would probably only be applicable if I moved machines and then did it. But
Ah.
right
Okay.
now,
Right.
I don't technically stow it right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Well, this has been a very eventful episode, I will say. I thought I was
Oh,
bringing you on to talk about, a wiki and a Discord server, and then you're like, "Oh, I have plans to do like Linux Foundation level nonsense." Um, I wish you the
oh,
best of
to
luck.
clarify that, Linux Foundation to me
Uh-huh.
is great. They're doing great things. Like, I mean, the stats, the stuff that they're involved
Sure,
in, like
sure,
the
sure.
numbers, the amount of people, but it's still very bureaucratic.
Ah,
I would say it's very and I can't this is just speaking from an outsider's perspective. I have no clue what it's like,
sure, sure, sure.
on the inside. I know the origin story of it.
Mhm,
Pretty much it was just a group of people that, came together and like, hey, like let's build this conglomerate of things that, have this uniform presence and bring
mhm,
people
mhm,
in. And now it's obviously grown a lot more.
mhm,
There's
mhm,
it's serious. I mean, I think the Linux Foundation has generated now over 80 billion or something like that
mhm, mhm,
in through its sub projects and things like that. To me though, what we're doing is
mm,
like we're keeping the youth aspect, and
mm.
people are going to roast me for even bringing this analogy up, but think about Apple in its early days. They had a whole
Oh,
pirate flag in their office.
right, right,
They had a pirate flag in their office.
right.
Keeping that spirit of like kind of new kid on the block, like let's build some cool shit, not worry about all the archaic debt that
Mhm,
this
mhm.
ecosystem has had in terms of ways of doing and philosophies and different things, and like let's focus on like let's like make the year of the Linux desktop. Let's make that
Right,
happen.
right, right. Well, I agree with you there. I guess now is the time that you get to shill the things that you want to shill. So
As if I haven't already shameless plugged enough.
feel free to
Uh,
shill again.
no, I mean, for the most part, I think most of the stuff that I would have to share would probably, I mean, you're gonna drop in the bio, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
like
yeah.
in the description, anyways. I would say, like, obviously, check us out on Discord, GG/Linux. We're gonna be doing that giveaway soon. Obviously, stay posted for that.
Mhm,
10K soon. We would love to, have a nice 10K celebration. We're looking for contributors for the wiki. There is a place within the server that you can kind of ask questions and get involved with.
mhm,
There are a lot of guidelines and things regarding that have also been in development, and you can find, in terms of like writing style and citations and stuff.
mhm,
If you are a Python developer and you want to get involved with a Discord bot, creating, the all-in-one Discord bot that we use to manage our server, but eventually we would like to get it into other servers and
mhm,
to be like a Linux uh the Linux Discord bot, for
mhm,
Linux servers. I think that would be cool.
mhm,
If you're interested in joining the team, if you feel like you could be of value, whether it be you're a creative, you're a manager type, you DevOps. DevOps is a big thing. We need people that are comfortable in working with like VPSs and Docker and things like that. And if you would like to donate,
mhm.
you could find our open collective on our website. And I think that pretty much for the most part. And if you want to get in contact with me directly, my email is
Uh,
Kaizen at all
uh,
things.
do you want the AI bots to have it?
Are they really?
They scrape videos. I don't know.
You're talking about transcriptions? I mean, they scrape audio?
Yeah, YouTube does auto subbing of videos, so it will probably scrape those.
That's crazy. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. I mean, I guess okay, well, if you want to contact me, join Discord.
Yeah,
You'll find me
there'll
there.
be a place to find it.
Yeah, you'll find me there.
Yeah, here's the open collective. There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing else you wanted to mention?
Oh,
That's
look
oh
look at the top open collector donor.
Oh, yeah, I did see that one. Yeah, Bill Gates.
Shout out to my man Bill.
Uh,
That was actually me, just to show you how much I believe in the cause. Yeah, people are like, you donated to your own thing.
mhm.
Well, duh.
Well, yeah,
That's the
it makes
least I can
sense
do.
to have like your money separate from the money for the project. Like that just
Yeah.
and there's like a 501c3 for it. Like it logically makes sense to do it like that.
Yeah.
Nothing else you
Yep.
forgot? That's pretty much it.
Everyone go tag PewDiePie and tell him to join the server.
That God, if you want to have a horrible month of
Oh,
moderation, there
dude.
you
Oh
go.
my
You're
gosh.
gonna have
No, we were talking about it. We
10x
were talking about it, and
messages.
like, oh my gosh, I don't think we'd be able to handle it. Like, that's basically just like a full-on raid, like all day, every day.
Yeah, you'd have to have it like
Yeah.
a minimum like minute slow mode. The server would be
Yeah.
unusable.
Yeah.
Okay, well, as for me, my stuff, my main channel is Brody Robertson. I do Linux videos there 6-ish days a week. I sometimes also stream. I've got a Neri stream planned at some point. I might do some game dev streams because I've been messing around with Godot recently. I don't know. Check it out. See what's over there. I've got the gaming channel that is Brody on Games. I stream there twice a week. Right now, I'm playing through Ori and the Blind Forest and Kazan the First Berserker. I also have the React channel where I upload clips from the stream. That is Brody Robertson Reacts. If you want to see me ramble about nonsense more than the main channel, there's nonsense there. If you are watching the video version of this, you can find the audio version on pretty much every podcast platform. There is an RSS feed. It is on Spotify with video, if you like Spotify video for some reason. If you want to find the video version besides Spotify, it is on YouTube at Tech Over Tea. So, I'll give you the final word. How do you want to sign us off?
I don't know. Long live Linux.
Long live Linux. I agree. Perfect.